Welcome, everybody, to another episode of Resilient Riches. We have two of the most famous wrestlers, most high-energy wrestlers that you could possibly find in the world, probably in history. I would probably say a high energy, probably put that in history. You get a lot of wrestlers who are really calm. They're from like Oklahoma, and they're really like, oh, I'm very modest. I don't want to make a big noise. But then you talk to the wrestlers like New York wrestlers, and you know where they really come from.
Yeah,
Exactly.
Shouts at Kendall Cross.
Shout out to Kendall Cross. A very chill, and we love you, Kendall. Don't beat the shit out of us. We really appreciate that. We have Reese Humphrey, a 3-time U.S. Open champion, head coach of RTC, NJRTC in New Jersey,
Training Center,
and the regional training center in New Jersey, and he knocked out like 16 Olympians that were trying to get this job. He just beat them out quickly without even seeing him on the mat, which is the key. And then we have CJ Brucki, a two-time U.S. Open All-American MBA grad or MBA grad,
yep.
So which is not very common in the wrestling sport because you're and assistant coach, and also used to be Reese's wrestler.
Oh yeah, come a long way.
Come along, and current now
best buddy,
and current best buddy. That was in the bio, which I find really romantic of you guys. DJ, business owners, pushers, drivers, and what I love the most is when I used to coach being coaches for people's lives and changing people's lives. So thanks, guys, so much for coming. We're really excited to have you, and we're looking forward to this conversation. We got some good music, some new music that we're releasing just today for everybody. But for anybody who doesn't know about us, we love wrestling. We wrestled our whole lives. My dad, he was on the heavyweight side, but didn't wrestle.
I watched a lot of wrestling.
That's what you do. You chips and you watch wrestling. It works. There's two sides of every coin. But thanks, guys, for coming. Just give us a little 2-minute background of yourselves.
No, appreciate you guys having us. It's been a good vibe, good energy in this office, and getting to meet you guys. This is 3 Klymans I know. And MB has some of the wildest energy that I've come across. So getting to meet more. He takes after
my wife.
It's good to know that it doesn't stop at MB, and I'm sure there's plenty more
warming up.
Appreciate you guys having us.
To meet also. It's all 8 of us.
Yeah, it's a whole gang.
Damn.
Yeah,
8 of you guys. That's a lot.
6 kids.
Yeah, so I'm Reese Highlight Humphrey. I was a 3-time U.S. Open champ, 3-time world team member, the head coach of the NJRTC, which is a regional training center, Olympic regional training center in New Jersey. And we're just always trying to find the next thing, whether it's music or podcasting or coaching or family and fun. We're just trying to strive for the next thing all the time. So thanks for having us on.
Thanks. And it's really cool because you're able to identify talent and identify different opportunities very differently than most people. Most people are very singular, and they're not. It's different when you're coaching and differently when you're trying to train people and building stuff up, which it sounds like that's something you're doing across the board with your businesses, with your podcast. Number one, we need a shout out for your podcast for all our listeners. We hope you listen to wrestling and get into it, but give us the name of your podcast.
Yeah, so it's called No Genre. You can find it at youtube.com/highlight Humphrey. Give us a like, give us a subscribe. We have a lot of fun on there. We do music. We interview a lot of people, and it's mainly combat sports, but really just whatever off the top of the dome we could think of that we think is
Rogan,
cool.
You got some competition.
That's really what it is. The podcast is called No Genre, but it's really kind of the mantra in life. With all these different endeavors, you can't really put us in a box. And that's
you don't have to be a wrestler to watch the podcast. That's what you're trying to say.
Definitely not.
It's good life lessons. That's what we're trying to strive for here.
We tend to talk about what we're
life lessons too.
But yes, it is. It's all different directions. And you throw music in there, you throw pop culture in there, you throw the joke of the day in there.
Yes, sir.
It's in good fun.
You can do whatever you want, really, 100%. Because there's no genre. You can't really define it. That's the key.
Yes.
There's no one's really telling you what to do, which is something, if you know the Klymans, we don't like to be told what to do. We're one of those types of people that if you talk to my sister especially, she does not like to be told what to do. And if you ask her, it's going to typically not be just a no, but it'll be a war back. But she's the toughest, I would say, of the 6 kids.
Isn't that always the case?
I think it's like by necessity.
Yeah,
I think it's like the one girl, 5 boys, and my brother eats a lot, so she had to fend for herself, and she was.
My daughter,
there's nothing like starving.
She works at TD in the bank. She's a lawyer, and she works in compliance. So they ask her, says, "Don't you find it difficult to work among all these males in the TD bank world?" What are you talking about? This is how I grew up.
Well
From a
acclimated.
family of 8.
It's a serious number. But how are you guys identifying different opportunities and different ways to look and grow? Because that's really, I would say, just talking to you guys before, that's really your biggest strength is finding opportunities, which is something that we love doing, finding opportunities. And because you can only put so much time into something and then taking that explosive action, which is really wrestling. It's waiting, biding your time, and then find that opportunity. When it's there, you go 110%. So for us, just in general on our podcast, we did 5 podcasts yesterday alone.
Brutal.
If we go, we were a little tired.
That's a lot.
And then I listened to them again because I just want to make sure they're perfect. But that's the same thing how we think. It's like there's this big opportunity and then there's one place on it. But how are you guys looking at opportunities and how are you identifying when the opportunity is right for you and when the opportunity to go into something?
Yeah. And so for me, when I was training for the Olympics, I retired in 2016. I had such a specific goal that I was so laser focused on all day, every day. And when that was over, I felt this void. And so I was just always trying to chase something bigger than me and like shoot for the stars. And then you end up on the moon, that kind of mantra. And so when you're talking about being a leader with coaching, with wrestling, easy for me. With podcasting, music, starting this adult wrestling classes that we're doing, we are the ones that need to be coachable. So it's like a flip of roles. When I'm the coach on the mat, now I'm the athlete. And so I'm just trying to take in as much knowledge as I can, trying to learn from you guys, trying to just build all these different facets. But we just had a call with one of my mentors, Jim Pearson, who was my dad's best friend, one of his athletes. It's a very similar relationship. And he was saying that you guys are a little bit too spread out. So focus on each one, but set these different goals. Phase 1, set phase 2, and then get real specific with it so you can just tackle one thing at a time and then you can get focused and move on to the next.
Yeah.
I think the key, what that you said though, is important for everywhere is that you're coachable and show that flexibility. So you can listen to suggestions and not just say, no, you don't know what you're talking about. I know everything.
I don't know anything.
Coachable is the most important in life.
Yeah. And humility.
And humility. Yeah, that's the only way.
Together.
Especially in new endeavors. You know, for me, it was less looking for what I need and being a little bit more self-aware about what I need in my life right now, right? Or what do I want to do? You know, it was for adult wrestling, this endeavor that we've kind of taken on. It was something that I was missing once I retired wrestling. And it's something that I recognized as probably for a lot of people who are in a similar boat. And then music, it was always something that I wanted to pursue. And I've had an interest in for the longest time, but other things came first. But now I have, like you said, I found an angle and I'm pursuing it at 110%. So it's almost like just kind of being self-aware and having that consciousness to figure out what it is you want to do.
Yeah,
you know?
I always find the wrestlers who compete at the levels that you guys wrestled at, which is as high as really you can go, that wrestlers are very similar to these ultra professions like traders who are on the New York Stock Exchange, for example. And what happened to the traders, just a quick background, was the stock exchange was trying to put in computers, and the traders went, okay, we're going to go on strike. And what happened was they all went on strike. The stock exchange went, oh my God, what are we going to do? Put computers in there. Then all of a sudden the traders are like, oh my God, computers are taking our jobs. Let's come back. They come back and then, sorry, they're all fired. So these are people who had a very specific skill, but it doesn't really transfer into other things. So when you find athletes who compete at the highest level and then they retire, because it's really retiring, it's very hard to redefine yourself and rebuild yourself to do something else. So in general, I don't know the exact numbers, but the suicide rate for traders, for old stock exchange traders, Chicago Mercantile Exchange, all the different exchanges, is like a staggering number. Depression is like in the 60s and 70%. And we have clients who are ex-traders.
We found like a lot of those clients also, they couldn't redefine themselves. They couldn't. We have a couple that were able to, but generally they just didn't know what to do. You know, I remember one client that we went to, big house, wife was a lawyer. He had nothing to do all day. That you can do that for a couple of weeks maybe, but after that it's brutal.
That I think is the issue with when you have an identity based off of one thing in your life that rules, you know, your day-to-day for so long. And that ends up, that chapter closes. Now it's like, what is my identity, as opposed to embarking on as many different adventures as you can in that moment, you know, and building a little bit of a portfolio for yourself.
What was the portfolio you built?
Okay. So right off the bat, I think sports and athletics are a foundation in my family to not only, build relationships, right? That's how you kind of, and learn these lessons from a young age. So I'm going to be involved in wrestling, but it could be athletics in general for the rest of my life, coaching, competing in whatever way I can. That's number one. Now, all of these side missions, I feel like are really what's next for us. I mean, adult wrestling, the old gal wrestling club.
And when we say an old wrestler, I'm an old wrestler in general. I'm 32, so I feel like I'm an old wrestler. Is that the target?
It's more of it's more of like it's relative. Age is relative for one, and it's also a frame of mind in my eyes, right? You could be 70 years old still picking up new hobbies, and that's the kind of person I want to be. So this old guy wrestling club, old girl wrestling club, it's almost like reminding yourself that it's never too late to pick up something new.
Yeah.
And that's been probably one of the more exciting side missions, along with music.
Our general, like the market that we're going after is going to be like 25 to 50. So it's whether you were done wrestling in competing in high school and you didn't make it to the NCAA level, which is an extremely high level, there's no options to wrestle. There's a ton of jiu-jitsu classes that run, and it's older people, and it's like the flow behind it is more technical and that kind of slow, methodical. And wrestling is viewed as super aggressive, and you have to headbutt each other, but it's a martial art as well. Break it down to technique, and we can do the same thing.
Yeah, it's also like once you really get into it, it's just like my two sons wrestling all the time. My younger son's big and bulky, so he beats sometimes he gets him. He's one, and the other one's 2.5. But the 1-year-old, all of a sudden, he grabs him, and it's like it's over for the other. Yeah, it's really. I actually
looks like me. It's supposed to look like
my wife's like.
And just to clarify, we met you guys through my oldest son, MB. We call him MB. He met you. He was a vagabond. Came into your gym one day.
I think he did.
I'm pretty sure you guys called him a hobo.
And he's
that was the actual official term.
So that's how we met you guys. My oldest son is a classic case of this. I mean, he's 37? I think he is, something like that. It's hard to keep track. But he still wants to wrestle, so this is a perfect venue for him.
Just so you know, my dad just called him 37 because he knew he's 5 years older than me, and I said I was 32. So because he didn't,
that's the only way.
Without that would never have happened.
I don't know why
that would never have
just like that. I don't know why you have to throw me
because I'm right. I'm right.
I'm not saying you're wrong, but
it was a very obvious.
It doesn't have to be publicized like that.
We had somebody on the podcast, and then we had somebody on the podcast 20 minutes later, and my dad forgot his name. He goes, "Yeah, Ethan." I go, "It's not Ethan, it's Eitan. What's wrong with you? Like, we just talked to him for 2 hours. What are you talking about?"
So I'll tell you what happened. Like, we just had a whole Hanukkah party, and we have whatever, everybody gives each other's gifts. So my wife got a gift from my other son of all the grandchildren with their full names and the dates of birth. It's hanging up in the kitchen. It's a perfect gift for me.
There you go. Yeah. Need that.
Yep. Yeah, exactly.
It's only good for 1 year, though.
I'm cooked. I'm fried.
You have to add on more.
I don't care I don't care what we did. Like when I was in the Army, I don't care. Nothing prepares you for a kid consistently kicking your ass. Like in the Army, when we would do like something called like 17-4, you go on base and for 17 days. So you'd be on like the Gaza border for like 17 days, no sleeping, all this stuff. But then you have 4 days of sleeping. For kids, there's no 4.
There's no rest day.
There's no rest day. There's just it just doesn't.
So MB is the happiest. MB is the happiest of all my family to hear this, because when MB he has 3 boys of his own, wasn't sleeping. Yet Ear would come in and say, "Oh, it's not so bad. You're not doing the right thing." But now it's now the tables have turned. MB is the happiest.
He should be. It's understandable. So tell us. Are you getting a lot of traction with the older wrestlers? And how are they reaching out to you? How are they finding you? How are they getting involved? Because obviously wrestling is a very regional sport, and it's very physical. So you have to physically be there. You can't virtually wrestle somebody. Right. How are you guys building this out? What's the plan for this? And obviously it's something well thought out.
Yeah, can't virtually wrestle yet.
Can't yet.
You never know.
No, I've actually done some virtual wrestling classes during COVID. I was teaching classes in Australia. I was here, and we would get on a Zoom, and I'd have them do stance motion. And even if I was here and they had a partner, I could teach them this, like, hey, lift them up here, make sure your hands are here. So it's very possible, but definitely not the same.
Not the same. Yeah. Well, it's like doing a virtual podcast versus in person. When you guys said you're coming in person, I was excited.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah. So we started out of like a Princeton Gracie Baja, and we've been going out of these jiu-jitsu gyms, which is good because we get crossover athletes. But it's around the area. You know, it makes sense for us to start where we're from. And, you know, you'd get wrestlers from the areas coming in. But then we realized, let's go out and find other gyms and bring the class to other parts of Jersey. We even went to PA. We did a California tour for a little bit there. So we started sprinkling it around, but we're basically just going out of gyms that are already established, so we don't have to have our own brick and mortar gym.
Yeah, of course. Of course. You're just offering an extra class inside something. And that's smart that you did that. You did it through like these jujitsu gyms and dojos and things like that.
It's cross promoting too. It makes sense for both gyms.
It just brings more people in because a lot of wrestlers will do jujitsu because it's not as labor intensive. Are you guys finding that a lot of jujitsus number one, I want everyone to know that wrestling is the best sport ever. And there is no, if you take any of the top UFC fighters, any of the top, really right now, it's even like people in people in WWE, which is now technically UFC. It's all wrestling based. They're really the foundation. Are you finding that the jiu-jitsu guys are easily transitioning to wrestling, or you find that most of them actually wrestled before?
Well, yeah, wrestlers transition to jiu-jitsu a little bit better just because we're on our feet all the time. Jiu-jitsu guys come to our classes. Our classes are normally 50-50 jiu-jitsu players from that gym and then 50% old wrestlers, that guys have dust off their shoes and come in and want to help their kids. They want to help their club. But yeah, I think the best base is pretty clear that it's wrestling for fighting or for anything MMA. So we transition a little bit easier to jiu-jitsu. But the jiu-jitsu guys do very well too in our wrestling classes.
Really? It's tough. All of them want to go right to their back though. We're like, fight off your back.
That's the only, it's like the number one. My baby does bridges at night. It's weird. Yeah. But I'm like, I'm proud of him.
Nice.
Yeah.
And we'll be wrestling and whatnot. And wrestling in our class consists of either just flowing, drilling, just practicing some of the moves that we've been going over in class, or dancing, right? Or scrapping, you know? So, but it's as long as you and your partner are on the same page about what we're doing here, then it's a healthy.
Yeah, you can get hurt. You can get hurt. You're not competing.
Yeah. Not competing. That's not the goal. The goal is fitness. It's self-defense. It's community. Getting around like-minded individuals is a really important thing. And everybody works really hard. And it's really, they all want to help somebody is what's so special about it, is that they're coming there and they're the ones that are getting in shape, but it's mainly for their kids or for their clubs so they can teach the technique that we're teaching them. And then just wrestling gets better across the country, which is a huge plus for us.
Yeah, I mean, it's also making people better people. Can you talk about how wrestling changes people? Because typically wrestling is something for younger people, and it gives them a sense of individualism. It gives them a sense of confidence. I mean, for me, I was like a scrawny, nothing kid with a big head, but then I started wrestling, and my coach actually started because I just didn't have the confidence, and it's hard being a kid and having confidence. And my coach says to me, he goes, you're not a great wrestler. You're getting your ass kicked all day long, but do a pull-up. And I said, okay, let me do a pull-up. Then I can do 2 pull-ups, 3 pull-ups, 5 pull-ups. And then I always knew that, hey, I can do then 30 pull-ups. And in the Army, that was something, I was like the smallest guy for my position. I was like half the size, but I was able to compete on their level because I always knew that I had something and I could level the playing field across the board. Are you seeing, so for youth, it's giving a lot of confidence. What is it training for people who either wrestled before or for people who've never wrestled that are starting in their 30s?
Yeah, so there's all those things we just talked about, the community and helping other people and getting in shape and the fitness and self-defense. But there's also grit, determination, work ethic, discipline, all those things. And we're not actually competing, but it holds you accountable. If you don't eat right, you don't sleep right, you're not going to have a good practice. And it's like a looking in the mirror. You get to just see the reflection right away. Like you said, you do pull-ups every day, you're going to be able to do more pull-ups. If you eat right and sleep right, you'll feel better on the mat. And it gives you a little bit of humility as well. Some of these people haven't touched the mat or in a long time, and they forget what it's like to be out there. And so once you feel that humility, you can just kind of set back and then start to build again.
Yeah.
And I think that, I don't wrestle. I don't do any of this stuff at all, and not even close, but I work out. I go to my son's gym. And it just carries you throughout the whole week. Like, I know when I don't do it, I miss it, and my whole quality of life is less.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. You got to be honest with yourself. Like, when you do that work, you feel better about yourself, right? And
I hate it. I don't want to go. I hate when when Nick pushes me, as he knows, but I can't live without it anymore.
Yeah, you feel better just from working out, but you also feel like you're getting stronger and better as a human, which is a very powerful thing and builds into that confidence.
Breeds confidence.
Yeah, your mind gets more focused. I mean, how many times do we compete? We compete every single day in financial services. There is like some serious. I've met people in financial services that lied, like straight up lied to clients. They're like, look at this, and they're like, no, that doesn't say that. It's like, no, it's actually like right in front of you, and you have to compete against some of the best salespeople really in the world. And you're talking about like there's the financial services, there's a lot of money that you can make in financial services, and the better salesperson you are, the more money you make. And I take it back always to wrestling, that I was able to compete, and maybe I wasn't the strongest, but I was somebody that it was a work thing. I can keep going. I will keep pushing. I might not take you down now, but I'm going to keep attacking you until I actually get you.
Right.
But if I wrestled someone like you, I would get the shit kicked out of me, and I would never beat you in a million years.
I got to tell you a small story. I don't think I ever mentioned this to you before, but we have like the yeshiva wrestling, the religious schools, Orthodox schools have their Wittenberg conferences for all the scrawny kids that couldn't compete on Sabbath and everything. So you won your Wittenberg in your senior year, I believe it was.
My junior year.
Your junior year, so whatever, one of the years it was. But I remember specifically, like you were wrestling. It was at the end. And you were like almost ready to give up, but somehow you reached down deep and you were able to pull it out, and you actually won that.
I was losing like 5-2 with like 15 seconds left, and then I turned him, and then I turned him again, and then I turned him again, and then I won. It was like a crazy thing. It was like
dug up, like you could see it as you're watching him, and you just see him like have that 10th wind, just pull it out from wherever it comes from, that deep within yourself. And you see that's what he's all about.
Core memory.
Yeah.
Core memory.
Yeah, absolutely.
Something that teaches you it is possible.
Yeah,
it was amazing. It was amazing to watch it.
Yeah, and we're like that all the time. Like there's people like, how'd you finish that sale? How'd you get that client? It's like, I just keep fighting. I just don't know how to stop. And it's a level of resilience that we just grow up with. When you were at this ultra high level, I mean, you're talking about like Olympic level. This is really where you're at. How did you go? What was the mindset that you had to continuously compete? Because let's say you compete against the Russians, and they're notorious for this, and the Iranians, and they're notorious for this. These guys are dirty. I mean, these guys hurt. They're not coming in to make you feel good. I know the French would put their fingers up your ass when they like I know that was a time that they actually would do that. But like how are you dealing with these types of people?
Yeah, so you never know when somebody's going to break. If they're good, they have really good composure, and so they're not going to let you know with their body language that they're tired. And so there's only one thing to do, it's keep going. And so, because you never know when they're going to break, you have to convince them that you're not getting tired. And so you just keep doing what you're supposed to do. What's my right hand doing? Clear this tie, get on to the next position. And that's how I stay busy. When I'm holding ground, trying to stop what they're doing, looking at the clock, it's stressful. I'm anxious. And so I'm just always trying to think about the next thing to do. And that keeps my mind busy. And because when you are tired like that, your brain will play tricks on your body. Like, hey, stop what you're doing. You're fighting, you're dying. Instead of giving into that, you got to just trick it with little problems and keep solving problems. And then I just stay a little bit focused, and I can continue to push.
Can you talk a little deeper about these tricking and solving the little problems? Because that's really amazing.
I like a lot of sports. Like he doesn't like other sports, but I think the football players is like that. Like when you go to a fourth quarter in a football game in the NFL, like you can see they're tiring. So I'm wondering, that's the same kind of mentality for all athletes. It's got to be.
Yeah, ours is different because it's a sprint. It's 6 minutes, but that 6 minutes is very, very long in wrestling. Football, it's got to be a little bit different mindset because there's so much time in between. The adrenaline goes up and then it comes down. That would be a whole different battle, but I'm sure they're doing the same thing, just one play at a time.
But what do you mean trick your mind? What are these?
Trick your body.
Trick your body. What is it? What are you doing? Like, what are you actually saying to yourself? Like, what are the techniques you're using? Because that's pretty cool to like actually understand. And that's
it's almost Jedi mind tricks.
Yeah. And how old were you at that time? Exactly. How old were you at that time?
I don't know.
When you figured that out?
Yeah, I don't really know. But the more and more I coach, that's how I explain it to people. And so if I give myself a problem, I'm much more focused. It's kind of like what Jimmy was saying about doing the phases. Instead of being so scatterbrained and worried about all the different attacks my opponent can hit me with, what's my right hand doing? Why do I not want this? Clear this, move forward, move backwards, check the mat, be in my stance. These are all little cues that I give myself, and I just check them off one by one and keep doing what I'm doing. And then I can feel my opponent start to justify giving up position and start to make bad choices. Like we all have a game plan going into it, but like Mike Tyson says, everybody's got a game plan until you get punched in the mouth. In that 4th, 5th minute, everyone's starting to get punched in the mouth. So you got to just keep sticking to the game plan while you're getting punched. And that's how I do that.
You got to put yourself there day in and day out, though. Like it starts in the practice room. If you're not familiar, if you're not comfortable being uncomfortable in the practice room, who's to say you're going to do it on the biggest stage, right? Your preparation isn't really there. But I'll say to my guys in the room, I'll tell them, fix your face. Because if you're really consciously thinking about what kind of facial expression, how am I conceding in this moment to my exhaustion, my emotions, then, how am I going to do that? How am I going to hold position when it matters in a wrestling match, right? Like I'll trick my mind, like he's saying, trick my mind. I'll force myself to smile in the room. If I'm having a bad day, right? If I'm getting scored on, smile, figure it out. It's the psychology behind.
Yeah. We used to practice smiles in the Army.
Yeah, and that's how humans are. We feed off each other, right? You guys are excited, so we're more excited. If I see someone is getting tired, I start to feel better. So it's such a good part of the mental warfare to always be getting up fast, total line first, and then never, ever break in that moment.
We used to practice 30 smiles. I used to make my wrestlers do smiles because that's something we did in the Army.
30 smiles.
Yeah.
I love what CJ said. You got to be comfortable with being uncomfortable. That's a great slogan.
Yeah. I was talking about conditioning the other day with some of my guys, and there's a really high base you can get to. You can work your ass off for do 2 a days, but that actual aerobic build only goes so high. And then once you get in that, it's just how long can you stay there? You stay there for as long as you can. You get comfortable being uncomfortable. And when you're in really good shape, you never not get tired. You're always going to get to that really dark place, but how long can you stay there and still do the things that you want to do intellectually?
Yeah, it's a great it's really understand. I would take from everything you said was the checklist of what you need to do when things are tired, and then everything in life. And let's say just to relate it to business and financial, if you do the checklist consistently over time and you keep watching yourself, that's how you stick to your game plan. I have my goals, and then the big part of it is making your checklist. So what do people do? Every time one of your wrestlers come to you, you say the exact same thing to them. Hey, watch your stance, do this, watch a shot, watch your stance. Mm-hmm. He's opening up here, he's doing that. So it's like it's the same checklist, but you're just going through, okay, let's say there's 10 things that you're looking at. He's weak or she's weak on one of them. And that's what we're going to go after because they haven't really matched their checklist. It's the same thing in business, that you have your checklist. You have to make sure that your checklist is good. But when you're in competition, your competitor, you have to check their checklist. Is their service bad? Is their pricing off? Is there recommendations? Is there branding off? And if you can check their checklist.
Is their education bad? Are they not clarifying? Are they not explaining it?
And that's how to win that business.
Are they overcomplicating something that's simple or simplifying something that's overcomplicated?
So we look for those. There's stuff that we look at. We'll look at 10 different items that when we're competing, and we'll look at that and we'll see like, oh, well, the client, they didn't show you this. So we had a conversation yesterday with a guy who owned a company, a huge gear clothing company, huge, and it's like a $300 million company, and we were talking to them, and they're like, well, the athletic and the athleisure companies were not doing what we were doing, so we found this niche, and then we ran through this niche, and next thing you know, they tried to copy us, but it was already too late. So, and that's when their company exploded. I mean, like serious explosion. Yeah. These are 37, 38-year-old guys. It's like nice. It's incredible what they've done. When you're coaching, so what I always saw, it's you get a wrestler who's already competing on like their national, exactly like a national champion or in the nationals in the top realm. How are you getting them to the next level when they're already coming in and they already think, number one, they think they're hot shit, but how do you get them to that next level?
Yeah. So just kind of to touch on all that stuff. When I'm coaching, and this is for any CEO or business owner, anybody that's leading a group of people, I have a set philosophy that is kind of rules and ideas of why you would want to do these things. But I got a guy that's 5'5", I got a guy that's 6'3". They come in with very different skills. And in wrestling, you can win in so many different ways, same as business. And so we teach this philosophy that's pretty broad on you want to be athletic, you want to be balanced, you want to be getting them out of their position and trying to wear on them and get them tired. But when I go specifically, I start breaking down details. You're good with this move. You're a little bit quicker. You're more explosive. These different things that I can hone in on each guy. But as I teach the whole team, I'm teaching philosophy of balance and things like that.
Gotcha. And
yeah, he'll umbrella a certain concept for one. And I take this and I yell it all the time in the corner now. he would just broadly say, win the hand fight. And that's like a trigger for me because you don't have much communication. When I'm out on the mat, he's in the corner. So you got to make it count, right? And he would be yelling, win the hand fight. For me, that means get inside on my tie, push him, pull him, get my lead leg that I want forward, take my shot. For Nate, it might look like fakes, pull on the way out, and there's different ways that applies to the athlete, but it's the same direction and it's the same voice and it's the same message that you're hearing from the corner. So I'm not going to miss that because oftentimes I'm blacking out in the match. I don't know what's going on.
Right. Yeah, you need help out there. But as a wrestler, you're the quarterback, you're the defense, you're the wide receiver. You're doing all of it. You're the coach, really.
Yeah,
so I'm just trying to give you cues
trying to throw you on your head.
Yeah, right.
If you don't, they're going to knock you on your head. Like you're going to get hurt.
Yeah, I always wondered if when you're like MB's in the corner and he's got his wrestlers, this guy's all coached also. He's yelling at them. Can you hear anything when you're in the middle of wrestling and somebody's yelling something at you? Like, do you hear anything?
With the headgear, it's harder.
Yeah, but you get locked in, though. So my dad would be up in the crowd, and he was my coach growing up. And in college, I would miss what my coach said, and I'd hear my dad way up in the crowd. I'm so honed in on that, focused on that voice, and I know that it's going to be helpful, and I need help. I'm out there. I'm alone. And so, yeah, man, it's wrestling is a really crazy thing.
Yeah, it's true. I actually do remember even when I was wrestling, you had weird lines. You're like, get him. And it's like, get what? Him?
No,
like,
my mom.
I got
what's wrong with that? That sounds like that's
the right thing. Not right away.
Hey, why don't you just trip him?
Yeah.
I'm trying to
get his leg. Get up.
I'm trying to trip him.
Just do that.
He just roll him. Did you not just see he punched me in the head? I'm trying to trip him, but I'm ripping out his leg. That's the whole thing. Yeah. That's the whole wrestling. We're just trying to trip him with our arm around his leg and lift him up, whatever it is.
So that's the thing about CJ. I got another little coaching cue for you. First contact. So when you come back or a scramble happens and you break, the guy that first touches is going to be a half a step ahead, but we're both so tired. We're both trying to catch our breath. I call it zombie mode. You ever seen a zombie stop? No, they're always going to keep coming. They're not real fast, but when you're exhausted, if you do the right things first, you got a much better chance of making them fall asleep.
Let me ask you a question. Something I always was wondering about. You get whatever happens, and then somebody's on the bottom and somebody's on the top when you get started again. So who has that advantage? Is it the guy on the top? Because it seems like that to me.
So there's
who's in control in the moment. Yeah. That's who's in control in the moment. But it's not really, it's an advantage. If you've taken the guy down, there's a whistle stop, you come back, you start in that same, I guess, position. One guy's on top, one guy's on bottom.
Which is a pretty fair position.
Fair position. I mean, if you've earned a takedown, that guy should earn an escape to get back on his feet, right? It's not just given to you, but.
So the guy on top, it has the advantage. It is.
They're closer to ending the match, which is putting both of your shoulder blades down.
Right, flat, but that's way more difficult. It's way more difficult to turn somebody than it is to escape. So if we're looking at who's going to score the next point, bottom probably has the easier route.
And some people are nasty from bottom. They'll hit some crazy shit.
Absolutely. Switches are like
because I've noticed it didn't seem like the guy in the top always had such an advantage that you would think. So
So we're always talking about doing the next thing. I've been talking to my guys. I coach at Princeton University, which is a phenomenal group of people, super special people that can go to Princeton and do the education and wrestle at a really high level. But I was telling them about hand fight from the bottom. And so normally when you're on bottom, you're just trying to get away, but I would constantly want pressure on my opponent. And if I'm just kind of in my base and not putting pressure into him, he has the full 360 and he can start to think about what he wants to do. But if I'm leaning on him, he's got to deal with that before he starts to think about offense. And so constantly putting pressure on him on your feet on top is pretty easy because you're in that advantage position, but same thing from a disadvantage too.
I hear that all the time. Tom Borelli, head coach at Central Michigan, where I went to school and wrestled for 5 years. I still hear it in my sleep.
Hand fight from the bottom?
Nah, get your hands on them first.
Get your hands on them
first. Yeah. He'd
First
also say a lot of things like, "We ever gonna get you tough, Brucki? we got to teach you how to wrestle."
It's like, but I just won.
10 seconds.
Even when I'd win, you'd be like, "You should have beat that guy by 10 points."
Hey, wrestling's so crazy like that. You win, you have to celebrate the wins because you win by 2. You're like, man, I could have won by more. And then
which is true, but it's like,
satisfied
damn, that was
you
tough.
Win everything.
Yeah.
But I did a speech after I graduated college. All the seniors do this little speech at the end, and it was like second at the NCAAs, third at the NCAAs, did this, did that. And I was thinking, man, these are all really cool things. But after I lost, I never achieved that final goal of being the NCAA champion. I thought I was such a failure. Instead, I totally changed my mindset in that moment. They're rattling off all these things. I'm like, man,
Not bad.
I did pretty good.
Not bad. Not bad.
Yeah, it's a real honor.
Shoot for the moon, you land amongst the stars type deal.
Other way around.
No. You said it the other way around. I always had a poster in my second grade class. I daydreamed at it for hours. Shoot for the moon, you land amongst the stars.
It's good you went into business because that.
And it's great. I was paying attention.
Exactly. Great.
Actuarial. At the actuarial.
Is not so great.
You're saying that on purpose. You shoot for the moon, which is closer.
Yeah, I think the moon is like a bigger object, right? And it's more of a monumental object in the sky when you look up. Like I want to go to the moon, but you can still land amongst the stars.
I don't know if you can.
That's how I interpret it. It's open to interpretation.
It works for you. It works for you. We agree to disagree.
I wouldn't think too deeply. I wouldn't think too deeply into that part.
Yeah, we don't
I think you're good the way it is.
We don't need to.
You don't need to be challenged here. You don't need to listen to him.
Just trying to keep you all on your toes.
Just trying to hang out.
It's good.
We're done.
We're good. We're happy here. We're doing well.
So, one thing. Go ahead.
No.
Take a nod. I wanted to say here too, because you were talking about what makes you want to continue to pursue, or what keeps you going, right? And for me, same thing as Reese. I didn't accomplish the goals that I wanted to and set out to do in college, and I always thought it was done for me. I was kind of like I was never thinking about competing at the next level. I was ready to start working, but then I got a graduate assistant position at TC&J, and it was like, hey, you can help out at the RTC. I didn't know if I was going to compete, but I got around these guys, and I saw Nate go to work. I saw you in the room creating a whole different environment that I was used to in wrestling. Tom Morelli, we worked really, really hard, and it'd be 3-hour grind practices. We'd warm up with dancing, spike ball. And
Spike ball's fun.
Yeah, it was a completely different look on the sport and feeling when I was in there working, going to work, right? And so I wanted to compete. I wanted to do the fun part. I'm doing all this other stuff, and I have a great feeling about the work that I'm putting in. Might as well do the fun part, and that's ultimately what got my foot back on the line. And then I accomplished things that, the All-American status that I made at the U.S. Open, which is, to me, it kind of put us a little bit more of a rung on the ladder than, the unfinished business that I had yet to accomplish in college. Like I was proud of not only sticking with the sport, but doing something and also learning a lot more about myself and who I can be as a coach, right? It's the influence that it's had on me, and also what we're trying to do with OGWC. It kind of all wraps into it.
And so there was a lot of trying to keep you in it too. Even when you were on the senior level, you're having fun, you're clearly getting better. He wanted to start his professional life as well. So I had to keep pulling him back. He's like, I don't know if I could do another year. And then we had a nice talk in my house one time when we were starting to get really close. And I got him to do it. And these Princeton kids, they have such good opportunities right when they graduate. And the really good superstars, I want them to wrestle freestyle because I know they'll do really well. But they have two things pulling them different ways. But you got to wrestle for as long as you can because the time
100%.
is so limited.
What's their career path once they graduate Princeton? Like, what's the next step? Is it Olympics?
Yeah. No, there is no real career.
Post-grad, you would be a professional athlete. You'd be either freestyle or Greco as the two
And where
styles.
are you wrestling? It's just all Olympics? Is it?
No, so we have these regional training centers. This is what I'm the head coach of. So we're affiliated with Princeton, but most of my guys are not Princeton athletes. So we hire these guys. They train full time. It's their day job, and they get to focus on just that. And that's how that works.
And who's funding it?
Donors.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Which is the right thing, in all honesty, because we always find a big problem that people will go and let's say they go to the Olympics, they go to the World Championships, and CBS and NBC and Fox, they're making all this money watching these guys, and then they're literally starving because they haven't even they don't get a dollar.
Now.
It's much better, and it should be much better. And in Iran and Russia, these are wealthy people. These aren't poor people. These people get actually funded.
Yeah, $1 million to win.
Yeah, that's a serious number. That's a serious
$250 for us.
Yeah,
if you win the gold.
Think about it, and we're in the U.S. I mean, they got oil money, so and they got secret money.
Yeah, right.
But no, I mean,
India, I think paid $40 million.
Who?
Their Olympic champion, India.
They should.
That's not rupees.
Yeah, that's what I thought. No, $20 million for third. And I was on what's that? Omegle. You get to like chat with different people. I saw an Indian guy, and he said he was a wrestler or he knew of wrestling. And I asked him, "Do you know this guy who wasn't Olympic champion or anything?" And they know exactly who he was.
Yeah, they also really respect. Yeah, they're famous. They're rock stars. Yeah. In Iran, you're a rock star if you're wrestling. I mean, it's the national sport. Like you are the king if you're wrestling.
I got a story about Iran real quick.
I was actually going to ask you, what's the difference? Why do you find some countries are better than others? And I also have a second follow-up question I don't want to forget. When I was talking to Kendall, I feel like the U.S. wrestling right now is the best it's ever been. By far.
Oh, yeah.
Not one superstar anymore. It's like 8.
Everybody.
So,
and the 2s and 3s are superstars too.
What do you mean 2s and 3s?
The guys that don't make the team. Number 1 makes the team.
Really?
2s were deep.
Yeah, like Chance. You got Chance going, and then you have Jordan Burroughs like behind. Like that's crazy. That's crazy.
We just had a guy that couldn't make the team for the U.S. You know, took residency in another country, started representing
Serbia.
Serbia's good.
Micic, and he went out and won a world medal. Couldn't make the team in the U.S.
Transferred over
because it's all about giving yourself the opportunity to compete in that tournament. You never know who's going to be that better guy that day. And once he was there, anything can happen. Boom.
Yeah, so Russia's always been those guys that have had so many good guys, so many guys that could compete at the Olympics, but they just can't make the team. They were normally the ones that would transfer over to new countries. USA had the most this year transfers. 26 different guys. We have 10 on our team, 26 guys, and they were all winning world medals when they would never have a shot.
Can they just go to any other country they want?
You have to have some sort of lineage, but it seems pretty light. They make it happen.
They can make it happen. But yeah, tell us the Iran story.
Oh, right. So we went to, it was the first time Team USA went to this specific city in Julibar, Iran. And so we get there, I'm getting off the plane and someone goes, Humphrey. And I thought like, oh, I forgot my bag. It was a wrestling fan. And so they really know their wrestling. To know American wrestling is so crazy to me because a random dude on the street is not going to know the Iranian wrestlers in America.
Yeah.
And so then we competed in this awesome venue. It was like pretty small, maybe 4,000 people, but they probably put 8,000 in there, maybe 6,000. You were crawling through people to get to the mat. It was loud. It was exciting. It was really cool. Our bus from the hotel to the venue, the whole streets lined up, people on both sides cheering for us as we're driving over there 20 miles.
Are you sure you don't have like any Iranian descent? Like maybe you should go over there and
I wouldn't make the team.
No, they're the best wrestler. Right now, the U.S. is the best wrestling team. I would say
back-to-back world champs.
Yeah, so you take
you could make the Iranian team and get paid that kind of money.
That would be great.
You're the celebrity.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. That would change your stars really quickly.
But then you're staying where you're at too.
For sure.
Of course, loyalty.
I couldn't even think about doing it.
No way.
How did it feel getting recognized for the first time?
Pretty cool. You know, like that small level of fame.
First autograph ever.
Yep. D-list celebrity.
Nobody's really stopping you.
They sold it for like $40,000 over there, and you're like, "What? This guy just ripped me off."
You told that story this morning about your shirt, right? One of your first shirts had found its way through circulation. You saw somebody in Cuba wearing it, right?
Traveled to Cuba to go compete. And right when we get to the practice venue, just this random Cuban dude, he's wearing my shirt, Humphrey Wrestling shirt. I'm like, no way. And it was like maybe one of the first ones. I think my brother actually made it like way back in the day, 20 years ago or something. And he's wearing it. I go, hey, what's up? He's like, who are you?
Made its way around.
That shirt.
Are there women in this group also? They're the one that you're coaching?
Oh, yeah.
Women too?
Yeah, we have one female athlete on the college team, but we don't have any senior level athletes. Just because our focus is men's freestyle, and it'd be too hard for me to coach and go to all the tours for two separate teams, and they're different styles, and so you need partners. So it would be hard for the females to wrestle the males, and so we need.
Is there like a sister organization to what you do for women, or not?
Balancing primarily coaches women, right?
Yeah, and so there's different RTCs that there'll be women at, but they would have a female coach as well, or a male coach that coaches female. There's something specific for that.
Valentine coached Amit, who shout out to Amit. We're very proud of you.
She's the GOAT.
She's the GOAT. She's the GOAT. If she stays in it and doesn't get burnt out because she's like a child, she will be the greatest female wrestler.
Or something?
Yeah, she was 19. She won the under 20 worlds, then she won the U23 worlds, and then she won the senior worlds all in the same year. Like month.
There's nothing like it. Two times.
Yeah. And she seems like she loves it too. And she'll, when you talk about getting burnt out, the fear of getting burnt out. Number one, it's fun when you're winning.
I would love that too.
Yeah, if you're winning, and you still have more competitions to go, then you don't burn out. Yeah. When you still you keep setting small hurdles for yourself to accomplish, and then you can keep going.
And the right people around you.
Yep.
And the right people around you.
We were kind of touching on this earlier, but when we have the pinnacle of the sport, it's such a goal. I've had some athletes, I don't want to say any names, but they win the Olympics and then they're super depressed. They think everything's going to fall into place. Like, I did it. I did exactly what I was striving to do. It was very hard to do. Why is my life not perfect?
Come full circle.
But
If you
it's
identify
still
yourself, if you identify yourself with one goal for so long, and you accomplish that goal, and you realize, okay, and you ask yourself, what's next?
Yeah,
this is what I've always been.
But it's hard because in order to get to that level, you have to be laser focused. You can't let any distraction.
Like, super selfish
like when
in those moments.
You're looking at the game. Yeah, it's the same. It's the same thing with all these. It's the same thing with like billionaires and people who are like big actors and big comedians. Like, they're at the top, and then all of a sudden they try to be something else, and they can't really be it. Like, I know billionaires. You wouldn't even want to talk to them. Like, I don't even I ignore. Like, I can't even look at them because they're just, everything is about money for them. Like, all they do is think about it. It's not even fun. It's not even enjoyable to be around them.
Billionaire would be tough. Being super famous would be tough.
Super famous, yeah, absolutely. Where you can't even walk down the street.
People only say yes to you all the time. That's why all those dudes that
couldn't move to Cuba
real quick, they always have their day one friends around, because those are the people that'll make fun of them and tell them no and get them back in line, because nobody else is. It's not real.
Absolutely.
Not real.
So we have this little game that we like to play, and we have a few questions for you guys.
Okay.
That before these are tough questions.
Another good game this time of year.
Before we get to the game, we always find that the most successful people in the world have this level of resilience, and it comes from a defining moment in their lives. Can you each speak about that defining moment in your life? It can be wrestling, non-wrestling, it's personal, it's whatever it is. We had our defining moments. For me, one of them was when I decided to join the army in Israel, which I'm not Israeli, and people think someone messaged me on Instagram like, you're a terrorist, you're Israeli. I was like, I'm not Israeli, just so you know, so I'm not a terrorist. Thank you for your help. Okay. For your help identifying me. But what would you say your defining moments are in your life? The defining moment that allowed you to constantly push when things didn't look great, and it allows you to constantly continue doing what you're doing?
Yeah, it's a tough question, right? But just off the top of my head, I have two. When I first had a kid, my son, my baby Parker, when he was first born, it changed everything. My perspective was totally different. It's not about me. I don't have to be selfish. I have to do as good as I can so I can support my kids, and it just put everything in a completely different perspective. And when I was training, it was just, I would never take any shortcuts, because like when it hurt me before, it was easier to do those things. When it hurts my kids, I'm like, I can't. So I literally changed in that moment. I never did anything wrong nutritionally, sleep. I was always on point with everything. And then with wrestling, I had one match, and it's actually an Iranian dude. I wrestled him 3 times. He beat me all 3 times. But those matches, I was ahead really big, up like 7-0, up 5-0. And he came back and beat me. And in my head, it changed everything, because I could have been winning by 20. He had me. He was beating me without scoring points, which is a crazy thing, right? So he was beating me in the hand fight, and it's basically my whole philosophy with coaching now. Position is everything. You can have tricks, but the tricks run out, and you'll get exhausted doing all those things, and they don't matter how much you're ahead if you can't finish the match. And so he just really taught me a lot about positioning and hand fight, and how to stay aggressive and be on to the next thing. And so those 2 moments were good for me.
Yeah.
For me,
you had a little break.
Yeah, it was a kind of a turning point for me. It was, I don't know, a coming of age type of experience. My senior year, I was early on in wrestling. I started wrestling in high school, and as Borelli would say, I had no idea how to wrestle, right? And I'm figuring this out, but I had a tough season. I lost my great grandmother on the first day of a tournament. I found out that night. Came back, wrestled the second tournament, and I did well. So bouncing back from something like that, but it wasn't like over. But I felt good about what I was able to do, considering and dealing with that, and it resonated with me. It kept me going through the season, and then I had it was a wild tournament for me at the state tournament, being unseeded and going on to win a tournament for her, and honestly, in a lot of different ways, it felt like through her, I was doing some moves I had never learned before. I was wrestling out of my mind because I was wrestling free, and it ultimately, it taught me a lot of lessons in a short period of time. It taught me how to deal with death. It taught me how to continue pushing and use that as fuel. And it also opened up a lot of doors for me. And, I wasn't going to take any sport Division I, but once I won a state title, I was able to take that even further than I thought I was going to.
It's really,
when I first entered.
Yeah, it's really amazing. It's like you break through a wall at certain points in your life, and that And then you realize the sky's the limit. And you probably took the lessons that she had, which is probably some depth a lot of depth. Yeah. If you were that close to your great grandmother.
Yeah, it taught me how to deal with things and really just spin it to be something positive.
Yeah, it's very deep.
Yeah, it's crazy though. Like work is not 1-to-1. You don't put in one work and win one match. You put in a ton of work and you might lose this whole time. Keep going, keep doing pull-ups.
Yep.
And then all of a sudden you break through, you might win all the rest of them.
That's the resiliency. That's resilient.
Mm-hmm.
That's really, what we're all talking
the whole
about.
Thing.
You don't give up, keep it going. You know, if you're committed to something, I mean, you got to know how to maneuver, but you got to be committed and stick to it.
Zombie mode.
Zombie mode.
I gotta say though, I gotta say one thing, CJ.
Yeah.
I gotta say one thing, CJ. Your sunglasses are freaking me out a little bit.
Are they freaking you out?
No, they're good. You can keep them on. I just gotta say,
you don't want to get too recognized.
Yeah.
You
can kind of see yourself.
It's a little whatever.
Just saying over there.
Not to change anything. I just want to put it out there.
That is CJ. CJ is whatever. Oh,
good.
There we go. Watch this. This song's called "Anybody Want to Dance."
So you're walking in the club, right? Just go like going on Saturday Night Fever.
There you go.
Anybody want to dance with me?
Come on.
Go, let's go. Walk in the club and I'm feeling myself. Anybody want to dance with me? No. Okay. Anybody want to dance with me? So walk in the club and I'm feeling myself. Anybody want to dance with me? No. Okay. Everybody wanna dance with me?
Walking in the club, go straight to the dance floor. Do you wanna dance? Everybody just say no. Dancing group and I ain't got no agenda. I'll ask never just Reese again. When I ask, I hope I don't offend you. Hate the player, not the game, no pretender. Walking away, watch me slip and slide. Dancing group and just me, the guys.
What you trying to do, girl? What you trying to do? What you trying to do? What you trying to do, girl? What you trying to do, girl? What you trying to do? What you trying to do, girl? What you trying to do, girl?
Why does everybody wanna look at me like I don't know what I'm doing? And I'm trying to have some fun, and I don't need anybody, but just how to move your body, looking around like daddy, maybe need a shotty, you get the liquor pump, get the speaker going, get your freaking on, bitch, come on, baby, drinks on me, it ain't nothing to it, still gonna do it, it don't really matter if the body wanna dance with me.
In the club and I'm feeling myself, anybody wanna dance with me? No. Okay, everybody wanna dance with me? So I walked in the club and I'm feeling myself, anybody wanna dance with me? No. Okay, everybody wanna dance with me?
Come on.
Yeah. Their face was jumping. Their face was bumping. Walked in the club and I'm feeling myself. Jumping. Dance with me.
No one not having time to feel the time. Of course, it's gonna be a little part of the night. Shoot my shot, always get in denial. I'm feeling myself, can't kill my vibe. Watch me work, you gonna wanna see the side of me vibe and weave it through the night. So if you wanna see me, you can meet me on the dance floor. But if you're not feeling it, just say no.
Walk to the club and feel myself. Everybody wanna dance with me? No. Okay, everybody wanna dance with me? So I walked in the club and I'm feeling myself. Everybody wanna dance with me? No.
The resilient bitch is freestyle. Yeah. Hey, climbing club. Hey, climbing club. It's a party up in here.
It's a party.
That was the best.
Do you write that all yourself?
That was the best.
Music and the lyrics, everything yourself?
Yeah, we have a producer. But
Yeah,
we write the
producer.
music.
That was amazing.
Yeah.
All right, so
Anybody want to dance with me? It's like it's resilience.
It's all about resilience. It's all about resilience. But it's about doing what you love, and it's about having fun doing it. That was awesome, guys.
All right, so we're gonna play our game.
That's the way to go. I just thought bring it up a little bit before we get into the game because the game's real. All right,
all about an energy.
Yeah,
switch
that's
up.
it. That's the key. That's the key.
Feel great.
That's the key. Now you're ready to go. Now let's get really deep. All right, we got five. We got a deck of 52 cards. We're going to take out your 5 top biggest values, something that speaks to you. And I really want to. The reason why I'm doing it now is because I want people to understand. Number one, you have to live life, and you have to have a good time, and you have to have fun, and even when you have success continues. Success rolls, and you can continue pushing even when you get to what you think is the pinnacle. But there is no pinnacle. That's the beauty of life. And if you keep going and you keep pushing, you'll get better and better. in life, not just the one thing that you think that you're stuck on. So the Olympic gold medalists that go through real depression, and the traders and the people that make all this money, that's not life. Life is what you're about, and life is what you're passionate about, and life is about moving forward. And I love that you guys are doing music. Life's a journey.
Yeah,
life's a journey, and you better enjoy doing it because you only got one of them.
It's true.
What is it? The man that enjoys the walk goes a lot further than the man that's fixated on the destination.
Yes, I like that.
The guy that enjoys the walk.
The man
that enjoys the walk. That enjoys the walk. That's exactly
a lot
it.
further than the man
that's exactly it.
Destination.
Yeah, I mean, it's people say, "Oh, take the train here, take that." I go, "Why don't I just walk?" My wife and I, we first met. We walked every single day, like 10 miles a day. That's all we did. We just walked and walked and walked. That's how you get to know somebody else.
I struggle with walking.
You struggle with walking because it's too slow.
I'll jog.
Run.
Yeah, that's okay. I don't know.
My wife likes to walk, but she's a very slow walker.
That's what I'm saying. If I walk, I'm so slow.
It's impossible.
I hope she doesn't listen to this. She'll be mad. She'll be mad if you heard that. Yeah, my dad.
She'll never listen. She's a very slow walker. Her father was a slow walker. He used to get mad at me because I would be like ahead of him. It's disrespectful. You're walking so far ahead of me. Right. Very annoying.
Yeah, my wife's dad is a vascular surgeon. He used to take her on the rounds that he would do. So she'd have them little feet and trying to keep up with him. He's just like dragging her through the hallways. So she learned that. Yeah, so she's like bolting from destination. I let her get ahead. I jog back up.
I'm a sprinter. I'm more of a sprinter. I enjoy the sprint. Give us your 5 cards.
Okay.
So just introduce the game for our listeners.
Rattle them all off.
So we've got 52 cards. They're all of different values, different life values. So what we've asked them to do so that we can speed it up a little bit is that to pick out your 5 top values out of the 52. And you can imagine family and meaningful work and faith. They're all part in here. And so let's hear. CJ, let's start with you.
Very difficult task.
Very hard. Very hard.
Just to preface this.
It's like catching Reese's wife while
they're
doing something.
Yeah, exactly.
Walking at the same pace. Play. Number 1 is play. I think it's important.
Not surprised.
2, health. For me. Integrity. Relationships is 4. And happiness is 5.
Good.
We have the exact same 5 cards.
Really?
No.
I've never seen anybody have the same 5. That would be insane.
That would be unless you cheated.
Yeah. So I have family, obviously. Leadership. As a coach, it's really important.
Yeah.
Excitement, creativity, and adventure.
Nice.
Mm-hmm. The creativity is in the music. Plays in the music.
Yeah,
I would say that combines you two. Yeah. Health, obviously, is in the wrestling. I'm feeling that leadership is health too.
Leadership is more.
Why did you put health in the 5?
Because he says it's a given.
It's never been that hard for me. So maybe I just take. I don't obviously don't take it for granted, but it's not something I have to really focus on. I love to work out. I love to eat right, and so I don't have to really focus on it. So for me, it's not something that I need to put out here. It's something I'm really striving to achieve.
I think you're right in that the concept of the game is finding the 5, but you'd have to put the cards that you had to discard into these buckets and how that you interpret that. So like, I don't know. For
if you can go through the 5, why you chose those 5.
Yeah. So play, I believe, encapsulates excitement and adventure all in one, and creativity, because I'm playing with all these different things that make me feel in life, right? Health is something that I think, obviously, I want to have healthy relationships with people. I see it in encapsulating everything, and that's why it's a reinforcement. But health as well as mind, body, spirit, all of those things I think encapsulate. So like with spirituality, I think I put that in there. So yeah, but relationships is big because family falls into that, and I felt like this was a way to cover both the relationships that I share with my family, and then also the community that I'm trying to create within, whatever type of, with my TC&J guys, with the NJRTC, with the Princeton ecosystem, with everywhere that I try and plant myself. And the ability for me to do that out in Jersey was very important to manage those relationships. So it's a big umbrella for me. Integrity, I believe, it covered like there was ethics and certain things like that. Also purposeful working, I think was one of them. And for me, like this is my values and ethics in action, and shown in action, right? Health, I just think that it's important, the emotional one was really what got me, right?
Yeah,
Being self-aware, and health,
Self-awareness.
happiness is really like the end all be all, because if my relationships with my family are all right, if my health is good, if I'm staying excited in new endeavors, and I'm living with integrity, then I'm happy. So if you were about to give us one, right? So just to give you guys the breakdown, it was split this deck in half. What matters to you? What doesn't? Split it in half again. Split it in half again. And then I think we round up at 5.
Yeah.
If you were going to take it one step further,
happiness would be the number one. Yeah, because you can encapsulate a lot with that.
And look, it's an ongoing process.
It's an ongoing process, exactly.
Reese.
Yeah, creativity, number one, not in order, but I just think when we get stuck on one thing, it starts to get monotonous, and I struggle with that. And so even when I was training, strength training, I always would try and do these athletic tricks, because those same lifts just over and over, it would be so hard to get motivated to go to the gym. And so we started doing these athletic tricks, which benefited the strength a little bit in balance, but it was more just to get excited, like, oh, I'm getting closer to this. I'm getting closer to that next goal. And so that's creativity. Family, relationships and family are very different than me. Obviously, friends are super important in all the relationships you have with your coworkers and the people that you coexist with, but family is my home. We were at a party a year ago or so. We talked about this the other day, and I said, "Where's my home?" And we were in my house. And he was like, what are you talking about? And I'm saying, where's my wife? Because I need that home base. I'm trying to find her, and she makes me feel like I'm in the right place. It doesn't matter where we are. If I'm with my kids and my wife and CJ, he's my family too. He's my brother at this point. And so I just think it's just the most important thing out of all these. Leadership as a coach, I think it's really important to be able to lead, but also be led at the same time. And so I need leadership to guide me through different things, but I also need to be able to have that confidence to push people and want to make people around me better, because I know when I do that, they make me better. So even my peers, I'll lead them, they'll lead me. CJ teaches me something, I teach him something. We do it all the time. We're trying to pick up his best skills, and being around like-minded individuals like the OGWC, the Old Guy Wrestling Club. The more people you're like around that, you start to act like them, and you want to be more fun and exciting, and you want to be a hard worker, and you want to be a wrestler. So that we think we got that going on too. Excitement, I can't do anything without being excited at it.
Hell
so
yeah.
there's a quote. Dan Gable was Olympic gold medalist, one of the best coaches ever too.
Shout out to Dan Gable. We love you on the pod. We love you on the podcast, Dan
let's
Gable.
Go. No, he's awesome. He says everything in life after wrestling is easy. Bullshit. No, that wrestling is the hardest thing a human can do, to be working as hard as we do, but also not eating and being disciplined. All those things were so easy for me. It's what I was so passionate and excited about all the time. And when I got into coaching, there's all these little mundane tasks you have to constantly do. To motivate myself for those was harder until I got excited that this is going to make my team better. And then I started wanting to do it. I couldn't wait to get home to organize the schedule and get these guys what they needed, because that's when they were excited about what I was doing. It made it a lot easier for me. And then adventure, I go to these overseas trips all the time, and it's always like a bitch to get there. And so we get there, it takes 30 hours to get there. It's such a struggle. And then people want to just go to the hotel venue, because you're cutting weight, you're focused. But if you take that time to go out and see the landmarks, you always get lost. It's always a hassle. But when you get back, it's always worth it. And so doing things that are tough.
100%.
Yeah.
100%. So mine just was, and I see the leadership a lot, because I think, what would you say your one was now that family was family was the one that encapsulates kind of everything, because you could do leadership from there. If you love your family, there's always going to be excitement. You always have adventure with them, creativity. That's really your home base, which is really cool. And yours was happiness, which I thought was really, really interesting. So mine was independence, health, wealth, because financial is what we do. Independence, health, wealth, integrity. And my last one was, I forgot my last one.
You got it on your.
I know, I have it in my office. But I forgot my last one.
That was a great one.
Yeah, it was.
That was the one. That was the one. You had to be a one. That would have been it.
Oh, and loyalty. That was mine. That was my loyalty for me was like leadership, and that was my relationships and being loyal to my wife, my clients, my friends, my family. And I have friends that I've wrestled with in high school that are still my friends today. And that's I would always say they're the closest friends I have.
Right.
I like
Shout out to my friends. It's a great game.
Yeah,
it's a great game. We can give you a deck of cards if you wanted to play with it.
Yeah,
sure, absolutely.
All right. Dad, tell us your 5. You're going to forget it, but I'll remind you.
I was hoping you'd forget me. So wealth was never that important to me, but because we had some low points financially, I never want to go back to that. So wealth became important. Health, I'm a little older than you guys. So at this point, I think about my father passed away in 94. When your parents start to pass away, you start thinking about yourself. So health is important. Go to MB's gym 3 times a week. I can't work out with him. He's too expensive for me, but I work out. I'm pretty committed. I'm pretty committed to that. I'm Orthodox Jewish. So faith is important to me. That's one of them. Spirituality is very important to me. And then part of what you've spoken about also, meaningful work, that was important to me. And that's been throughout. Can't be bored. It's got to be something exciting. It's got to be something that makes me happy. It's got to be healthy for me. All those things are incorporated in that. So those are my 5.
Yeah, and that's I love because when people look at you guys, it's like these tough guys, they're coaches, they're this, they're that, but it's like you're really people and you really enjoy your life.
Not when you were rapping. It was like a different personality.
It changed the whole thing.
Yeah, but that's what you want. Give us a little plug, and can I play the 2-minute one now?
Oh, okay, yeah, sick.
Let's go.
Okay, all right, yeah. So no genre. You can find us on Instagram. You can find us on Spotify, Apple Music, any streaming service. You can check out our podcast. It's the No Genre Podcast. And you can check that out at www.youtube.com/Highlight Humphrey. And that would be my plug for Instagram, Highlight Humphrey. And then
the old gal wrestling club is just OG Wrestling Club on Instagram, and Twitter I think is Old Guy Wrestling Club.
And oldguywrestlingclub.com.
Yeah, old OG Wrestling Club.
Okay. This is called elevator music.
It's the floor all the way at the top.
The elevator that takes us up here is kind of what I imagine myself in.
Yeah, I feel good. I'm kind of vibing out.
To the penthouse?
Take me to the what?
Yeah, thank you, sir.
Okay.
Yeah, take it to the chorus. We make elevator music.
Yeah.
We make lit elevator music. Elevator music. We make lit elevator music. We make elevator music. We make lit elevator music. We make elevator music. We make vibes. Dance with me.
Oh, yeah.
Dance with you.
Yeah.
You can dance with me.
Oh, yeah.
We can dance. Up, down, look at the ground. Charlie Brown. Up, down, don't make a sound. Charlie Brown. Up, down, get out. Up, down, wait. Up, down, get off. Up, down, right. We make elevator music. We make lit elevator music. We make elevator music. We make lit elevator music. We make elevator music. We make lit elevator music. We make elevator music. We make vibes. Press 2 for you. I forgot my key. Press 3 for me. I need some extra time. Press 4 for more. Which floor is the fitness? Press 5 to vibe. What room are you in? Press 6 for kids. Oh, it's a party up in here. 7 is heaven. We turn it up to 11 and anybody could get it because we always got room for one more. Hey. Dance with me.
Oh, yeah.
Dance with you. Hey. Yeah. You can dance with me.
Oh, yeah.
We can dance. Up, down, look at the ground.
Charlie Brown.
Up, down, don't make a sound.
Charlie Brown.
Up, down, get out. Up, down, wait. Up, down, get off. Up, down, right. We make elevator music.
This is the breakdown right here.
We make elevator music. We make lit elevator music. We make elevator music. We make lit elevator music.
It's that Jersey fist bump.
Thanks everybody for coming. We'll see you on the next one. Resilient Riches, guys. CJ, thanks for coming in. Appreciate you guys. Appreciate all that you're doing for the world. Thanks for wearing the necklaces. We appreciate it. We love all you guys. Thanks for being here.
Appreciate it.